As I said earlier, the meeting is being recorded. What I'm going to do is kind of a little bit of a president's report, and then we'll get on to the main game. So starting president's report now. There's been some feedback, some consternation, of course, always will be over the transition away from using Microsoft Web Services. I have to say very emphatically that it absolutely is an essential thing to do in order to protect ourselves from possible consequences down the line. I'm very happy that we've got a very capable technical team doing this. We've got Stephen and Hugh, who are both experienced system engineers in this kind of space. We've got Harry, who's going to be taking care of overseeing, I think is the right word, any support that's needed. And Rob Brown, who's here in the room with us, is actually the project manager. My job is basically just to sit there and look as though I know what's going on, which I don't, technically at least. But I'm making sure that it's sort of being done in a sensible way, and that we won't hopefully have any serious issues for people. A few people have been transitioned to Google accounts. I think it's Rob has, and Hugh has, and Stephen has. I probably will be next week. Though I don't make heavy use of Microsoft anyhow. And we're sort of identifying all the various cases and handling them. So it is proceeding. There hasn't been a lot of communication because it's been just a lot of preparatory work and analysis and what have you. Moving right on, we had a little win the other day. I was contacted by the Glen Waverley, I think it was, Technical College. And I said, hey guys, we've got a whole bunch of old classic computer equipment here. Would you like it? So I said, well, yes, please, we will. He described what it was. So right now we have stored away down in the garage, we have a number of quite classic home computers, accessories. We have some core memory planes. We have an awful lot of stuff. And Bill Sakel, I hope he's watching. Bill Sakel has undertaken to be the kind of curator for in our Museum of Computer History, which we're going to set up somewhere at Moorabbin. Exactly where hasn't been fully finalized yet. So this is all part of a move to try and make the Moorabbin premises more interesting and attractive to people as they come into the space. We want people to walk in and say, wow, this is really cool. This is something I want to be part of. So that's the museum. Now, talking about Moorabbin, as you all know, the state government's beginning to relax the rules about who can go where and how many people and so on. So what we have decided at the moment is that we have two projects going on at Moorabbin which are about enhancing the space. Now we're going to set a number which will be more conservative than the state government numbers. So for the moment, the number is going to be 10 people who can be in the space at any one time. But we are prioritizing probably about 5 of those slots for people who are working on doing the maker room and working on the museum equipment. So at the moment it will be 5 people, but having said that, and I think Craig, you're there, you run your meetings at Moorabbin, as long as you can't go to Moorabbin without giving notice. That's absolutely a no-no. Marlin, if it's daytime, has to know. We have to be very mindful of Marlin's, our office ladies, anything concern she may have. She's pretty cool with everything, but we have to show her the courtesy of letting her know we're coming. So if, for instance, Craig, you want to just nod I can see you, you hold your meetings there. If you want to go back to holding meetings there, as long as we know beforehand, and as long as it stays within the somewhat conservative limits that we've set for numbers. There's going to be, or there is, a clipboard on the front counter, and anyone going in must sign the clipboard, which is totally in addition to using the QR code for the emerging new tradition of signing in with your cards. The clipboard is direct, immediate, and technology independent, shall we say. No, we've not. That's sort of, it's a bit loose, I suppose, but you will be able to go into Moorabbin. You will be able to hold SIG meetings there with limited numbers of people, but you must absolutely serve notice and be granted leave to go in and use the space at the time. External SIGs, and those the SIGs who don't meet at Moorabbin, I just don't think the committee can really be terribly prescriptive about that. So if you want to start doing your SIG in the local church hall or what have you, that's kind of going to be down to you. And of course, the owner of that property, the council or the local church or whatever it is that you're using that property for. I don't think we can be dictating that. We can simply caution or advise you to be very conservative about it, because we have got with our demographic, we are, with the exception of a few people in the room at the moment, as I see on my screen, we have a demographic where I'm the average age of the membership, so we have to be very careful about those risks. So talking of SIGs, that allows me to segue directly into our panel discussion. And the topic is going to be sort of a loose conversation around how has your SIG been handling the isolation and doing meetings online and all that sort of stuff. So we have, in no particular order here, and yell if I miss anyone, we have John Hollow, who is representing microcontrollers, which is interesting because I also help to run microcontrollers. So we might just go off and have our own little private conversation, John, I don't know. Kelvin Cording. Kelvin is here representing, it tells me, Northeast Android, but he's signed in as Multimedia Home Entertainment SIG. So he's wearing a couple of hats, I guess. We have Paul Hatton. Now, Paul is here representing Coderdojo, which is, I think, technically not really a SIG. It's an activity that we host and run at Moorabbin. Paul, maybe you'd like to just tell us a little bit now what Coderdojo is.
So Coderdojo is a international program set up was started by MIT to teach younger children how to program. And it has quite a number of groups right throughout Europe, and the Americas, and Australia. And we've been running ours for the last 6 months. We cater from children from 7 to 17. We're primarily using at the moment Scratch, which is sort of an object-oriented programming language. So you just sort of, a bit like Lego, you connect it together and you can get a program to run that way.
Graphically, yep. Thanks, Paul. I'll add about that the Coderdojo is sort of an excuse to bring younger people into the club rooms. That's that. From my point of view, that's the motivation. For people like Paul, it's really about trying to spread the word to the young people. So we hopefully will kill two birds with one stone and have lots of young members in a few years' time. Okay, moving right along. Craig Evans is here. He's the convener of the Access and Excel SIG, which meets at Moorabbin. I think I'm right about that. Yeah, nods, thank you. And finally, I don't think I've forgotten anyone else. Finally, we've got Rob Brown, who, apart from being the standby moderator if my MBN was to fail, seeing that he's in the room, he can sort of join in the conversation sort of from the background of the microcontroller workshop, which he is co-convener of, which also meets at Moorabbin. So we have a few Moorabbin and a few non-Moorabbin SIG. Actually, come to think of it, I think, Kelvin, you're actually the only non-Moorabbin SIG that we managed to rope in for this. So here we go. Kirsten Greed is still with us in the room. And Kirsten, you're welcome to join in the conversation. We're just going to, this is all going to be very, very ad lib and ad hoc. So, and we have standing by very patiently, we have George Scarbeck, who's going to be doing the what's new segment later on, possibly after a break. We're just playing that by ear, how we go with that. So, what shall I say next? Let's start off with John Hollow. John, so can you say a little bit about how the microcontroller SIG has been operating so far during the the lockdown virus, the SIG, the ISO?
Yeah, thanks, David. Well, you've been running a couple of and probably a sequence of virtual meetings using Google Meet, which is what the presenters here today, this evening, are using as well. And it was an interesting exercise. I personally found it more successful than I expected. What else can we say? What sort of topics did we cover, David?
I think last month I actually did a run through of what's it called, Tinkercad.
Oh, yes.
An online program that allows you to actually program and simulate Arduino boards and electronics.
Yeah.
And I've actually been using that as well to instruct my 11-year-old grandson on electronics and Arduino. He turned out to be too precocious for the dojo thing. So I sort of took him off to one side, and we have a session every Saturday where I use, well, he can only use Skype because he's got a computer. His computer is controlled by the school, and they don't allow certain apps or things to run. And we've been sort of teaching him Ohm's law and Kirchhoff's laws, and you'd be surprised, John, at what he's able to pick up.
Yeah.
So that's been really interesting. Yeah. Sorry, I stole this.
David, I wondered if at this point it's worthwhile throwing in a little bit of an introduction to virtual conferencing or virtual meetings, if you like, particularly for our viewers who haven't partaken of that, so we can give a bit of an understanding of what's involved, or do you prefer that a bit later?
Maybe a little later, John.
Okay. Yeah, sure.
It depends, I suppose, on how many and we can't really know how many of the people here are still virtual meeting virgins, as it were. But there's nothing terribly scary about it, as long as you do what we did, which is have a little technical check at just before the meeting itself. So, Kelvin, you're the one person here who's not Moorabbin based. What have you been doing in your SIGs?
Well, actually, thanks for the opportunity of talking a little bit about this, David. The first virtual meeting that the Northeast SIG ran was last month. I've made a few notes because there's a few things that came out of which I think people would find useful and interesting. Firstly, I sent an invitation out to all the Northeast SIG people, based the same as what we did for our normal meetings, and we sent out requests to about 55 members, of which I got a fairly positive response from those members, and about 20 to 25 people joined a Zoom meeting. Now, the reason we used Zoom rather than Google Meets at the time was because most of the people that responded said they'd had some experience with Zoom and felt comfortable with it, and I thought it was better to use Zoom to get people used to the ideas. So we ran I think a fairly successful meeting, which ran for something like an hour. Interesting enough, of course, on Zoom, you normally only get about 40 minutes time. Halfway through that conference, the Zoom people automatically send a message in that says, you can have as much time as you want. So we ran for about an hour and a half. And we really used it as a bit of a training session for people to get used to what Zoom and virtual meetings were about. We did have the biggest problem that we've got, and in fact we got some fairly useful participation from George on it, because a lot of the meetings that we have, not only for Northeast Android, but for multimedia and hardware, where we really require the use of video as a part of the conference. And we found that videos, you can't get high quality videos from a presentation, and that does provide a major drawback for several of our SIGs that meet at Wadham House. At this stage, we don't have a solution to that problem, but we're starting to look at some of the concepts of using the OBS, the Open Broadcast software, in conjunction with YouTube, to try and get a workflow where we can get successful meetings. So I think at this stage, that's probably as far as we've gone. And I don't have any easy answers to the question of using videos for remote conferences,
or being able to show videos via remote conferences, I guess.
That's right. Which does provide a major drawback to, as I say, the three SIGs that I'm involved with.
Yeah, yeah. Are there not other sort of? Can you sort of redirect the activities to being less dependent on high quality video?
Well, it's not
show
only
and tell on editors.
It's inequality, Dave. It's inequality. Right. George might like to make a comment on that, because he was involved in some of the activities of that last conference.
George, you're muted. Hello, George. You had a question there.
Well,
there we go.
I think Kelvin has covered it quite well. It was interesting. I was doing some testing to see how much bandwidth, and it's not bandwidth dependent. For some reason, Zoom is throttling how much data you can get. And I was using a gaming laptop, so performance isn't the problem. But it was peaking at about 1.2 to 1.3 gigabits per second. Regardless, we had about maybe 8 or 10 people, so I've asked most of them to switch off the video and to see what difference it makes, and it made very little difference when someone's showing a movie. Kelvin tried different codecs and so on, and basically after half an hour of testing, you can't show videos, YouTube videos or anything of this nature in a Zoom meeting, or I would imagine in Google Meets as well, because we had a smaller participation in another event to try that for video SIGs, and we can't show videos.
Can I just ask, are we talking about full screen videos or just a small part of a screen?
All were done full screen.
Either.
Sorry, some were done part screen. Apologies, Kelvin.
Sorry.
And over to you, Kelvin.
Oh, well, I think Stuart said that there's a problem there, and actually David King, myself, and John Hall are looking at what we might, whether we can get some solution to that, a little bit like live streaming directly on YouTube.
I would suspect that YouTube would throttle bandwidth as well. I mean, when you upload a video to YouTube, it sort of says, okay, I'm going to scrunch that up now, and it probably is compressing the stuffing out of it. I wouldn't
Well,
know
I
for
don't know
sure,
whether Hugh's got any comments there, but I got the impression using OBS software that provided you've got the right bit rate, you can actually upload it, provided you've got a reasonable bandwidth to upload on. Is that right, Hugh?
I don't think Hugh can hear you, but here it comes.
Yeah, I just
Yes. Oh, so that's a kind of an affirmative from Hugh, that if you've got the right amount of outgoing bandwidth on your ISP, I guess you mean, then OBS may overcome that problem. I'm not sure where would it get to. You're sort of saying uploading, but uploading to where?
Well, you can. Well, you can create a channel on YouTube and upload your videos and show them.
Oh, okay, right. Oh, right. Okay. Right. Okay. If you're going to do a presentation, you would pre-upload your videos, and then you just have to be a deft hand at the control desk as you do a presentation.
Well, that's what OBS is all about, isn't it, Hugh?
Right. Okay.
So I think there is solutions to this problem. There's a bit of a learning curve there and a bit of a practice that we need to develop, and that's what John Hall's and my intentions are.
Right. Okay. Okay. So do we have to be hoping the ISO is going to last long enough for you to get that worked out?
Well, we'll get it worked out by the time all the bands have gone.
Yeah. Exactly. Yep. Yep. Okay. So Craig, you've been virtual meeting at not at Moorabbin, I suppose. Have you had virtual meetings? How's that been going for you guys?
It's been going well. We have been virtually meeting using Google Meets, and because we're just working with spreadsheet design and writing code, it's easy for us to instruct whoever wants their problem solved to click here, type this, type that, save, run, and it works quite well.
Right. Yep. Yep. A little bit sort of show and tell, like I'm doing with my grandson with an online circuit simulator.
Yeah.
I guess,
The person who needs the design work done, they do all the work, and we simply tell them what to type and when to save, and away we go.
Right. Yeah. Which is actually what I've been doing with my grandson. I haven't been showing him, I've been telling him.
Yeah.
That way he's going to learn more.
Yep. Agreed.
Leading from behind. Yep.
Can I throw in another comment there related to that? I believe is that one of my observations is that in a sense there's more opportunity of participation by the non-leaders, because a non-leader can leap in and sort of say, hey, I've got a little bit to present here.
Yeah.
It's much more seamless and much more easier to happen in the virtual conference than it is a real meeting or a physical meeting.
Yes. Yes.
The other thing I'd follow up on from Kelvin on the social side of things, something that I think Kelvin was saying that he had a pretty good number of people that joined the virtual meeting, and with microcontrollers and a couple of other groups that I was with, I think it applied to Linux up at Watsonia as well. We found that there were a number of people who joined the meeting who were more distant, and so that we were getting people into meetings, if you like, that wouldn't have been there if they were physical.
Yep. Yep. I'm not sure if Hugh's gone away. All I got is a capital H for him at the moment. He's turned off his camera, maybe. What was I going to say? Yeah, that thing about more distant, and that's a point that I would like to make to everyone who's watching and listening, is that this actually is an opportunity for you to join into SIG meetings that you wouldn't normally be attending. It doesn't matter if you live in Watsonia and want to go to a meeting in Mornington. You can still do that. Actually, that's a bad example. I don't think Mornington have been running meetings, but you can go to meetings in other places. And to those of you who are SIG leaders, I'd ask you to please try, and I think really John Hollow is the point of contact to let John know where your meeting is in cyberspace, so that other people can join. We publish the addresses in the real world. We should be publishing the addresses in cyberspace as well. And from that point of view, I don't care if it's on Zoom or on Meet or on Skype. I don't care. But if we should be trying to offer all the members the opportunity to be joining in these meetings. George, you have an idea?
I'd like to follow up that. That's an excellent idea. And if anybody from Sunbury is listening, it's a good group. For me, it's about 1.5 hours drive each way. So I might go there once a year in a good year.
Yeah.
But they have some good meetings, very capable people. And, if you're somewhere in Moorabbin or whatever, to drive there, you're looking 2 hours or more.
Yeah.
So if someone from Sunbury is going to hold a virtual meeting, please let everybody know. I'll gladly attend.
Yeah. I don't know if Hugh's still with us. How many viewers have we got now? If you're there. Okay, well, we've got about the same number as we get in a normal meeting. Then I think maybe a little less because we do have home viewers as well in the normal meetings. Thank you for that. Just to sort of build on that, last month when we had the rather august panel, we had a total of 100. We actually clocked 100 viewers on YouTube, so that was sort of I put that down as, pardon me, it was fairly successful. Bit of a record. So that was exceptional, and I mean that meeting was a direct consequence of the consequences of being in isolation, because I was able to approach people I would probably never have the temerity to approach, and B, I could approach people in other states, in other interstate. So we had the guy from Canberra and we had the guy from Sydney. So that was, it's not all negative with this lockdown. We do have those other opportunities, and maybe Kirsten for next month, we'll see if we can take advantage of that again and see who we can get. We'll scour the list of WHO people, some senior people or something like that. Or has anyone got Jacinda's phone number? We give her a call. Hey, you never know your luck in the big city. So, Rob, you are actually co-convener of the workshop. So, how's the workshop been going?
Yeah, I guess, David, one of the comments I was going to make was we've had meetings quite regularly now on a Saturday morning. So it's essentially the Saturday morning mob, and it can be easily up to 15, 16 people. So I was wondering how other groups were going with numbers on their meetings. Ours have been quite successful. They do. They lack structure and they lack, I don't know, a format. But so it's fairly ad hoc and casual, laid back like I guess our Saturday mornings usually are. What's interesting though is that everybody does get a chance to speak, but it can be a little drawn out and more on one topic than it might be for balance. So yeah, it's been quite interesting for people, and I think in a lot of cases, for example, Chris Hayes, who may be listening, doesn't have to travel from Churchill in Gippsland down to Moorabbin. So that's a big relief for him to be able to attend and have some social contact that he might otherwise miss out on. And we would miss out on his technical exchange, which is very valued. So it's been very successful for the Saturday group. So there's probably microcontroller workshop, a few from microcontrollers generally, and the Raspberry Pi Moorabbin SIG. So Mohan's also been quite central to organising a lot of the meetings for the Saturday group. So the once a month, the Saturday becomes a Saturday. Sorry, it becomes a Raspberry Pi Moorabbin meetup. So yeah, quite successful. But yeah, I'd be interested to know how others went with numbers.
Who wants to volunteer their first? Craig, how have you been with numbers, do you think?
Well, we are amazingly consistent, being primarily an Access SIG, and Microsoft Access having faded in popularity in the last 20 years. There are 4 of us when we meet in person, and there's 4 of us when we meet online.
Right. So it's more of a cult than a SIG, is it?
I'd say that, yeah.
And
we have one database that we're primarily working on.
Right. Okay. What? As in somebody, one of the members?
Yeah, one of the members has his business going through the database, and
right.
It's almost a case of every month he comes up with some idea for an improvement. He'll get partway through his own efforts, and then when the SIG comes along, he's like, "Okay, here's where I'm at, and what do I do?" And generally, in the 2 hours, we tend to fix it, and away he goes. And then the following month, he'll have something new that he'll want to.
Oh, okay. So you're kind of workshopping his database for him.
Yeah, it's been going on for a few years. I thought it finished last year, but
right,
we had some stuff come through, and so we're still working on it.
Right. I think he probably is due for a big bill, isn't he? Kelvin.
Oh, yes, just as a matter of comment, David, for those people that have tried putting in a different background, it doesn't work well at all. In fact, Rob's gone a couple of times between his normal and the artificial background. The artificial backgrounds don't render well at all. In fact, I would discourage people from using those backgrounds, because it really takes away from the video picture.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, I think so. I think Hugh's given up. He's sort of turned his camera off, and because it was doing the weirdest things. It was messing with his head, quite literally.
Yeah, well, it does for everybody, I think, there, David.
Yeah. So I the other day, a couple of weeks ago, I was playing with Zoom. I think it was something where I was obliged to use Zoom, and I thought I'd give this a try. And I picked a picture from my computer as the background, and I picked a picture of the 3D printer. So here was me sitting inside my 3D printer talking to people, but the headphones caused it a real problem. It didn't know what to do with the headphones, so sticking out.
But Zoom does seem to work reasonably well with artificial backgrounds.
Yeah. It'll probably also load up put more strain on your computer if you haven't got a very powerful computer.
Oh, that's right.
A lot of processing going on there.
Okay.
Right. So who else has got? Paul, how's the numbers gone with you with Dojo?
We've had numbers up and down. Our biggest issue was we went from physically being at the Moorabbin to just getting feet nice and comfortable to next being online.
Yeah,
and we've had some come back. They were up north suburbs, and they've come to join us once again. We've had a couple sort of come and go, just sort of some kids really excel in an online environment. Others are more practical based. But we mostly get about 5 or 6 kids per session. And they've been fantastic in adapting.
Yep. That's good. Yeah, Rob.
David, the comment I was going to add, and relating back to my earlier comments about the Saturday thing being unstructured and casual, in contrast to that, I've been, and Kelvin's been a part of it as well, having regular meetings for the web development team. And I think what we find there is that we can actually be more efficient online because we're focused. We put our screen shares up, so whoever's done a little bit of work recently would share that on the screen, and there would be sort of targeted, directed conversation, and then the next person would do something similar. And we find that we actually get through our targeted topics and work a little bit more efficiently. So on top of the advantages of people not having to travel and park and whatever, get ready and make themselves spruced up for the outing or whatever it might be, they can be relaxed in the comfort of their own study or whatever, and save the time, and in the end be even more efficient perhaps than normal. So for this group, our web development group, it may end up being something that we just continue on with regardless of restrictions easing and so on. The only thing we might miss out on is the actual, sharing a drink over the pub table afterwards for lunch.
Yeah. Kelvin, sorry.
Yes. I just support what Rob's saying. I think where you've got a small group like that, you can really focus on it, and I think it really is essentially a very efficient way of working.
Yeah. Well, we have found the same with committee meetings as well. And I think, I don't know, I may be the first president ever to finish a committee meeting before 9 p.m. It stops all the little side conversations that distract people. You can't sort of start doing a sly little comment to the guy next to you or anything like that. And that is a help too. And yeah, it does keep it on track. So I suspect that we'll continue doing at least some committee meetings that way. And it also affords us the opportunity. I think we've only done it once so far, but it does afford us the opportunity to fairly easily call a meeting, a non-scheduled meeting, if you like, if some issue arises that really needs sort of a little bit of attention. So, hey guys, let's get together, let's talk about so and so for half an hour, and then go off, rather than making the round of phone calls it might otherwise need to get something resolved. Kelvin.
Yeah, just on that question about numbers, one of the things where you've got a large number of people, such as we had at the last Northeast SIG, where we had about 20 or 25 people, you need to be able to manage that fairly carefully. When you've got half a dozen enthusiasts all wanting to talk at the same time, it can get out of hand a bit. So I think if you're going to have these meetings where you've got a fair number of people, you need to have it reasonably well disciplined in a protocol of how you're going to actually run your meeting.
Yes. And look, quite honestly, that's the reason why we've got us here in the room, and then we've got the members on YouTube who are unfortunately unable to stick their hands up and have their say, because I'm not sure how we would manage 50 cats in the room. Just too much to herd. Honestly, I don't know how it would go. Maybe we at some stage should even give it a try and say, okay, everyone can come into the room, and we just hope that it works. But to be honest, I sort of fear even you only need one person to have a loudspeaker on their computer and an open microphone, and you've got yourself a feedback loop that will just kill everything. And that's sort of a fear for me. And if you've got 50 people there in the room, how are you going to identify the ones causing the feedback, which is a plop every 3 seconds or something? It gets louder and louder and louder and louder. So call me chicken, but that's why we've got this format we're using right at the moment. So you've had 20 people in the room, Kelvin?
Yes.
And it hasn't descended into chaos?
It's been well managed.
Okay, right. Well, maybe next month then, mate, you can run the meeting.
Well, I think the real secret to that is that you put your hand up if you want to talk.
Yes, and I've noticed you guys have been doing that, which is
almost the golden rule.
Yes, and that's really good. And well, look again at the moment, I've got was it 5, 6, 7 people on my screen. Hugh was not. I haven't got his face. so I can see you all. If it was 100 or 50, then it would be a bit harder to pick someone. I did actually see a recording of a meeting held in America in APCUG, or one of their groups, and they had about 50 little thumbnails on the computer screen at once. That was interesting. It stayed tidy, I must admit, it did stay tidy. Now, the other thing that's concerning me is as we start to come out of isolation, how are we going to ensure continuity? Are we going to just say, right, on so-and-so date, we're going to throw the switch and it's all going to be physical meetings? Or are we going to try and gradually blend back into adopt some sort of hybrid model for a while? I've been doing a bit of thinking today about a hybrid model, and Kelvin has an idea, so go, mate.
Well, I was going to support what you're saying, David. I think it's like a lot of the things after coronavirus, we've got to take advantage of the things that we've been doing and learning as a part of the process.
Yep.
And I think this hybrid model is probably the way to go. The only thing I can't resolve is how you have a nice drink, you know, when you're online and you haven't got all those people around you.
Water.
It's not quite the same, is it?
Yeah, well, actually, right now at Moorabbin, you will not be able to have a drink. There won't be. If we do have in the early stages, there won't be any coffee and teas and things in Moorabbin meetings.
Yeah.
The biscuit barrel's been taken away.
Well, yes. Well, of course, a lot of the SIGs that we run at Wadham House, we will go to the Palms after it, and we're going back to the Palms this Friday, aren't we, George? As a trial, but I think there's only about 6 or 8 people going, and we're on 2 separate tables.
Oh, well, yeah. Slightly different dynamic. You just have to be like the young people, won't you? And just sit there texting each other instead. Yeah.
But we do that now, don't we, George?
Yeah, so I've sort of been thinking a little bit today, is there anything we could do to help the non-Moorabbin SIGs to be able to put their meetings online as well as having physical meeting? I don't have any answers yet. And look, I'll take this opportunity to suggest to anyone there who has got any suggestions, go and put them on Yammer, put them on the monthly meeting live group on Yammer. Just throw any ideas there or any contributions you can make. You know, maybe there's somebody out there who say, yeah, I've got a recipe for making 50 wireless microphones for $200, and we'll do it. And you know, I can sort of see maybe if we ensure that there's somewhat decent microphone equipment that can plug into a mobile phone, and the mobile phone is sitting on the tripod with a little 3D printed bracket, then we have the means for broadcasting a monthly meeting from the village hall. So just have a little think about that. Anyone out there, and stick your ideas onto Yammer. By the way, talking about Yammer, we haven't attempted to open up for questions from Yammer simply because we don't have enough personnel to be monitoring Yammer and interjecting questions, bringing up questions to the panel and all that sort of stuff. It takes a dedicated person. We've got Hugh, who's pretty much dedicated to making sure that the right person goes out to air on YouTube. And I don't think one person could handle also screening a Yammer stream and or on YouTube or wherever, and curating questions for the panel. So kind of apology for that, but the reason is it's just too fraught. It could go horribly wrong if we tried to do it. So how are we going for time? John?
Yeah, I just wanted to do a little bit of a tangent in a couple of directions from where you hinted at. And so taking up the idea of Yammer, if you don't mind, I might actually present 3 or 4 slides.
Yep.
Yeah, and also bearing in mind that we're actually particularly interested in the virus. I'm personally interested in the virus for personal home reasons. So if I present this, is that coming up? I hope.
It's coming up.
Right. As long as Hugh has switched that to air.
Yeah. Yeah. So the Yammer people are in a sense a SIG themselves, a different type of SIG, an online SIG. And during this time, I've been picked up a lot of very useful information, very expert information from Yammer that I would have had a lot of trouble getting by any other means. So here's three or four gems that I've come across, and every one of them I learned through Yammer, the Yammer group. So this particular slide shows today's and yesterday's new cases in Australia and Victoria, and it's very timely. And so that starts to give you an idea in real time, if you like, what the risks are if you're particularly concerned about the virus.
Yep.
Another one on the same page, and so I've got the URL at the top there. It's covid19data.com.au, and another very valuable page on the same website that I learned about through Yammer is the transmissions, the different transmissions. So, for example, the blackie ones down the bottom of from people who've come from overseas. But the orange ones are the ones that really concern us. They're the unknown ones that have been picked up in the community, and so that shows you over the last month. Those orange ones shows you the risky ones that are out in the community there, and so anyone who's particularly concerned, who's got lung conditions, would be really interested in that. So that I found was very useful. And the last one along that line, again, is I bet you can't remember that URL easily at the top. But this is the Victorian Health Department daily publication of active cases within which locality in Victoria. And so you know whether your locality is particularly risky or not. And so anyone who's following that sort of thing is they are three very key pieces of information for someone who's concerned about the health aspects of it, and that all of that was picked up through Yammer.
Yeah, yeah.
So that's my bit.
Thank you. That's a nice plug for Yammer. Get on Yammer, folks. Yeah. Kelvin.
Oh yes, David. John Hollow and I had some discussion quite some time ago about the capabilities of the video conferencing facilities to set a calendar for a future event. And it seems to me that one of the things that we should look at in the future, and I think we probably will in the web development group at some stage, of being able to set future video conferences, booking them up in the calendar, and people by going to a calendar seeing when you're going to have a video conference.
Right. Okay. That I see a look on John's face there, but that would be. Would it be an alternative to, or in competition with the established mechanisms for that information?
That's where John and I had some debate. I'm still open to it, but it just seemed to me that if we go into the future where we're going to try and integrate some of our websites, that would be nice to have an integrated calendar that looked after for events for the various sites that we've got. And
yeah, I mean, there's some really challenging backroom stuff there, because integrating Google Calendar into Civi CRM is an essential requirement to achieve that. And I suspect that could be a way off. But yeah, that's an ideal world. Can I just use that as a segue to put up a couple of other things then, if you don't mind? Is is the issue of how do we hang on, how do we notify right now today our change in meeting, and so changes in meetings, and so hang on, I'm not sure that this is working. My entire screen click here. Yeah, is this coming up? I hope. Yeah. And see, this is illustrating the point that someone who's not the leader of the meeting can actually ad hoc present something through a meeting. So our homepage, all of our recent things that are related to the virus up the top there on the left-hand side of the page in red. They're the links that take you through to where the changes are. And so I'm hoping that SIG leaders will get things changes through to me, because it's a rapidly changing situation with the committee making decisions and also the governments. So there's where I'm suggesting you get the things, recent changes from the website under SIGs, recent SIG changes down the bottom there, circled in red, and that's the page that will there. If people can put through changes through to me, I can get them up there, and the calendar is going to be our master source of recent, rapidly changing things. The calendar is available on the home page in the left-hand column, a little bit down where the arrow is, and so you can see there that we've got color coding. So your question there is seeing who's got video conferences on when. There they are in the light blue. And so that's our best guess of best attempt at. In fact, the light blue video ones there that are on our calendar are probably more accurate, whereas we're uncertain about which physical meetings we're having because of the government changing the rules by the day and week. So that's it. So thanks for that little lead.
I think the main issue there is that we don't have the URLs for those virtual meetings available to members who don't get the email from their particular SIG leader, and that's the hole that I think we need to plug.
Look, we can if anyone gets those things through to me, I will arrange putting them up on that web page.
Yep.
Yeah, leave it at that.
So that's a call to all you SIG leaders out there. Please, if you can submit it is possible with Zoom, and it is possible with the one we're using at the moment, Google Meet, to have a permanent URL. We in the room are meeting on the same URL that I used 2 months ago for my first online meeting. And that's kind of my room. I don't know if others could actually access it. I have no idea, and I don't care. So it can be permanent. Hugh knows how to, and I've actually managed to bang my way through as well, how to set aside a URL on YouTube days in advance. So that can also be published if you're using the model of people in the room and then people just in watch and listen mode, which is more complicated. It requires using OBS Studio and a Hugh or a Chris Hayes to be the control room. It's a little bit more skilled. So yeah, I'd be interested in feedback and on the notion of somehow helping the non-Moorabbin SIGs to be able to put their meetings out, I guess over YouTube or even as virtual meetings on Meet, Google Meet or Zoom. I'm agnostic about that, but Google Meet is the one that we will provide technical support for primarily. Yeah, Robert's just remind me, just again, I think just an idea to float past the membership in general. I've been toying with the idea for quite a while, actually, of running daytime monthly meetings. And this has been sort of in my head long before the coronavirus thing. And the concept in my mind at the time, and it can obviously be resurrected after we're out of ISO, is to have a daytime monthly meeting. So that those members who are not particularly happy about driving at night, or just can't drive or won't drive at night. My wife is not very happy about me driving at night. Not that she'll do it. And a daytime monthly meeting, which we try and structure not quite as formally as the regular monthly meetings, sort of a little more social. Maybe I won't say quite a game of bingo, but sort of getting a little bit towards sort of that social interaction kind of thing. So, if anyone's got any thoughts about that and ideas, and particularly if they would like to maybe help to prepare for that once we get out of ISO, and could we do it as a thing even in isolation as well, that we do daytime meetings? Because for some people, it's not quite anyone's bedtime yet, I don't think, but we do have members who go to bed at 9. In fact, our vice president is usually in bed by 9, but then it's up again at 5 a.m. There's something really twisted about that, but that's what he does. So yeah, just a little thought there. I'm just going to look at my list here. Yes, John, daytime meetings do exclude those with a job, but it really is that is targeted really at those who are retired and but can't attend nighttime meetings. I think that's pretty much it. Has anyone got anything else to contribute? Because I'm running out of puff a little bit here. A shake from George. No. Okay, shall we take 10-minute tea break? And then we'll come back and George can do the what's new.
Look, ask for a show of hands. Who wants to continue? After tea break, people may not want to come back. I'm easy.
Yeah. Well, we can't get the show of hands from the people at home, unfortunately.
Okay.
So I think we'll do it. And look, when we come back after 10 minutes, we'll see how many people are still on YouTube. How about that?
Excellent.
John? You're muted, mate. You're muted.
I think it's good to do what we advertised.
We'll do, okay. Although we'll have the consumer affairs people on down our throats.
Yes.
You promised us this. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, well, how are we going? Oh, look, we've been going for about an hour, so we've done pretty well.
Yeah.
Thanks everybody, and thank you out there in YouTube land as well. Stand by, have a nice cup of tea, and well, I think I'm on air. Welcome back. Here's my cup of tea. Here's my what was it going to be? A biscuit? My Tim Tam, peanut Tim Tam. And welcome back to the meeting. George Sarwick is now going to do his classical, popular, evergreen "What's New" segment. So over to you, George.
Okay. Tell me when I'm on.
You.
Okay. A few things that appeal to me, and I hope some will appeal to other people. There's an update to the world's fastest camera. It can shoot 70 trillion frames per second. 70 trillion. Each pulse is 1.5 picoseconds. Now, that won't mean much to you, but 0.00, and I'll be talking zeros for a long time. But what it means, gives a lot of statistics. This camera can capture approximately 230 frames in the time it takes light to move 1 millimeter. Got that, guys? That is fast. Okay, don't expect to use this camera for family photos, but they're looking for very short-lived phenomena: nuclear fusion, fluorescent decay of molecules, light waves themselves, and so forth. There's a super steel breakthrough that makes it a stronger and tougher alloy. Now, steel has been around for zonks, but researchers at the University of Hong Kong and the Berkeley labs managed to produce a new type of steel that has a high level of performance in 3 properties. Now, the main properties are strength, toughness, and ductility. Strength and toughness are not the same. Strength describes how much load it can take before it deforms, and toughness is how much energy it takes to fracture material. Now, glass is strong, but it's not tough, and ductility is how much it can deform and return to the state. They've managed to cure the problem of fractures propagating through the metal. And it's relatively low cost to implement when you look at the extremely expensive, very high and tough grades of steel. And they claim it'll make a superior bulletproof vest, bridges, cables, lightweight cars and military vehicles in aerospace, high-strength nuts and bolts in the construction industry. If that gets away, that's a big deal. Something else, Samsung has unveiled a 50 megapixel phone sensor with DSLR levels and autofocus and bigger pixels. They promised 108 megapixel camera and delivered it when they promised it. And they're promising this to come out relatively soon. A lot of interesting things. It has real-time high dynamic range, adjust the ISO to reduce noise, gyro-based electronic stabilization, and the ability to capture 8K videos at up to 30 frames per second in good light, obviously. Now, also on computers, this time I thought I'll make more on computers than other things like medicine, and there's a lot of statistics on the virus, but I've decided not to mention them. There's a new Raspberry Pi 4 that has increased its memory, and it's got quad-core CPU, like system on the chip, fast Wi-Fi, Bluetooth 5, gigabit Ethernet, 2 USB ports, 2 USB 3 ports, 2 USB 2 ports, 2 micro HDMI ports capable of supporting a couple of 4K monitors, a display port, camera port, and the standard GPIO header, and a micro SD slot, so you can load data and the operating system. The 8 gigabyte is $75 US available now. And MelbPC already mentioned about a Raspberry Pi SIG. They had 2, one temporarily is in recession. But Amazon is selling it for $145 Australian, including delivery, and it's fully assembled, tested. It includes the latest Raspberry Pi in a case with all the ports, a power supply with on-off, and 32 gig SD with the operating system on. Now, talking about computers, hard drive. People have been asking me, what is the best hard drive? Well, what I'd like to do is to now try and see if I can share my screen. and I can't get at it. Just bear with me for a sec. Here it is. And hopefully so can you see the screen now? Hello?
Yes.
Oh, thank you. Backblaze is a large cloud storage, and I've been looking at these statistics every quarter, and without doing too much explanation, that's how many drives they have, what type of drive size. They got the 12 gigabyte, terabytes, and how many have actually failed, and this is the annualized failure rate. Now, with these, the drive days haven't been all that high, but still 140,000 drive days with zero failure rate. These are Toshiba. You've got Seagate, some more Toshiba models. These are the industrial ones, but when they did the comparison in domestic and industrial drives, there's almost no difference. In some cases, the domestic ones, it's slightly better availability. What is important is down here. I'm not sure if you could see where the cursor is. This is a total over the entire year. Sorry, no, for the last quarter, just on 1%. That is the lowest it's been. So the drives are becoming more and more reliable as time progresses. A failure is defined as if it's returned in the warranty period, and many of these are 5-year warranty periods. So it's satisfying. These are all mechanical rotating drives, so you can get these huge terabyte drives. Now, something else which is also very recent, Power Toys. Microsoft has released Power Toys, a very early beta version 0.18. Fancy zones makes it easier to draw complex windows around the window layouts. I do mine, so I'm not interested. Shortcut guide, I love that. When you hold if you're not sure about the shortcuts, and I used a few, if you hold the Windows key down for 1 second, the shortcuts will appear. I'm going to hold press thing, and here is the shortcuts. And the Windows key, and for instance, 1, it'll open a DOS box on my machine. 2 is Google. 3 is Mail, and so on. So 1 to 0 are the first 10 of your items you put on the taskbar. And the various other things which some of you would know, some of you may not know, but if you've gotten, that's quite easy. Power rename, I'll show you shortly. Quite good. Image resizer, but these are also integrated into Windows Explorer. And Power Toys Run. If you press Alt and Spacebar from anywhere, you can start typing. I haven't tried it from Word. Let's do it. Alt Spacebar, and there it is. I typed in not beforehand, and it remembered. So if I want Notepad, I just type in NOT, and here we are. We're in Notepad. So I know there's an Excel. Let's try Excel. Very neat, folks. Very neat. These are released by Microsoft. They're free, obviously. Oops, I don't know what I've done. We don't want to save that. Now, I'll just... I'll demonstrate something. These are just some photos I've taken, and hopefully you'll see their photos around the city. And to rename those, you select how many you want to rename, and you right-click. Quite a few things. Resize, you can resize those, and you can have a power rename. So this is, without going to it, this is a special symbol, and you can put in dots. So these are city photos, city, and enumerate items. So if I just click on rename, these are done just like that. If I don't like it, just press the undo key, Control Z. And also for resizing, you select which. You can resize all of them, of course. You go in and resize. And you can have it custom. Some of those are quite large files, so you can decide what you want and make a picture smaller, not larger. And you can not create a copy, but if I do resize, and they're the custom ones. So if you have a look at the original, and if you look on here, 5,700 by 3,200. And if we look at the resized ones, 1920 by 1080. It's got a word custom on here. They are identical. So this is before the custom and the original. No difference. No difference at all between them. But the size, they've gone down from about 3 megabytes to 0.3, 10-fold decrease. So when you're sending things to your friend, don't fill up their mailbox. Now, let's just have a look at, just about finished, sorry, Windows and D. And we're talking about lunch and using your phones. This is a group that I have lunch with quite regularly. It's a post photo. I've entered in the camera club I belong to. The judge raved about it, thought it's fantastic, but he sort of complained about this white glare. He said that should have been realised, but after praising it, I didn't win after all. So that's about it for what's new. So I'll stop presenting, and over to you, David.
Well, thank you, George. And I think that concludes the proceedings. If we, John, you want to give him a clap? Give him the clap he so richly deserved. Yeah.
Thank you.
Well
yes,
done.
you said we finish by 8:30. It's 8:29, so we can have the closing comments from our president.
Oh, okay. And the closing comment is, this meeting is hereby closed. Thank you, everybody. Bye-bye. Good night. And
Bye.
Cup of tea time.
Yes.
Bye.
Oh, how many people are watching?
Hugh? Hello, Earth to Hugh, who's muted. Okay. Yeah, okay, that's good. That's good. Did you notice the peak?